The ocean is an awe-inspiring place, stretching endlessly into the horizon, its vastness a reminder of nature's beauty and power. But beneath its serene surface lies a darker, more perilous side. While the ocean can be breathtakingly grand, it also harbors countless dangers. Without understanding the risks and the creatures that dwell in its depths, you could find yourself in serious trouble. Here are the 20 most dangerous ocean creatures in the world. Number 20. The stonefish. It should actually concern you that we're going from one potentially dangerous creature with venom to arguably the most dangerous venomous fish in the world today. I'm not holding back on this one any bit. This is the stonefish, and it's not to be confused with a lionfish, even though they do have a lot of similarities. This one is far more dangerous due to the venom that it packs, and the rather nonchalant way in which it can inject you with it. Let's get to the venom in a moment, but what I meant by nonchalant way of stinging you is that the stonefish doesn't actively hunt out prey or even seek trouble. It is the trouble, so it does things in a more relaxed way, using its own natural body's camouflage to blend into the terrain of the ocean. It does so quite well, which means that no one sees it there when they go down to examine something like a reef or even stones. Then, when they put their hands, their fins, or whatever body part in question they have near the stonefish, that's when they're going to get pricked by one of its spines, and that could lead to venom getting immediately injected into their body. In humans, the stings can cause intense pain, respiratory weakness, damage to the cardiovascular system, convulsions, and paralysis, which can also lead to death if you're not able to get treated. And if you can't guess, it's a bit hard to do when you're potentially paralyzed in the water and the venom is pumping through your veins. There's an antivenom, so if you do have someone nearby, they can get you to safety and treatment before things get too bad. However, you will regret it in the moment that you're stung. Trust me on that one. Number 19. The lionfish. I actually mentioned this fish near the start of this video when I talked about the stonefish. These are two that are often compared to each other due to their incredibly venomous natures. But while the stonefish loves to be more discreet in its presence, the lionfish is much more colorful. The irony is that this colorfulness is intentional. It wants a predator to know that it's dangerous and that it shouldn't get near them, and it apparently works quite well, as they have no natural predators outside of one exception. While the venom that it has is not as bad as the stonefish, it can still cause a lot of pain, nausea, vomiting, fever, headache, numbness, paralysis, diarrhea, sweating, temporary paralysis of the limbs, respiratory insufficiency, heart failure, convulsions, and even death if you are not in the peak amount of health. And really, who is these days? The venom can cause you to be in pain for several days, which is just not something that anybody wants to go through. So what was that exception to the rule I mentioned before? That would be itself. You see, lionfish are notoriously cannibalistic. They will eat their own kind if they feel they can get away with it, and they will absolutely get away with it. It may be weird, but it's also true. Lionfish are actually native to the Indo-Pacific regions, but now have a growing concern in the Atlantic, the Gulf of Mexico, and even the Caribbean. They are known for their vibrant striped bodies and flowing venomous spines, and they are as captivating as they are problematic. First observed in U.S. waters in the 1980s, likely due to aquarium releases, they have since spread rapidly and become invasive, posing a severe risk to biodiversity, particularly within the Atlantic where they outcompete native species for both food and space. It's another reminder about how humans can screw things up and introduce non-native species into waters where they have a far-reaching effect on marine ecosystem. Efforts are in place to control them, but they remain an example of the fragility and interconnectedness of the oceans. Number 18. The red-bellied piranha. Now, you had to know that piranhas were going to eventually show up on a list like this. Technically, they are not found in the oceans, but in rivers in places like the Amazon. But I'll put an exception on this one because of the importance of these fish in pop culture. And also because we have a really great research team here, don't we? More specifically, I'm focusing on the red-bellied piranha, which is said to be the most aggressive of the lot, and the ones that humans are more than likely to have issues with than any other species. That may sound odd at first, but piranhas were never man-eaters specifically. Instead, they are technically omnivores and will eat just about anything that suits them at times, even if it's just a seed or even a plant. When it comes to the red-bellied piranha, though, you'll likely have seen this one in films like the Piranha franchise. That includes Piranha 3DD because that title is oh so clever. But anyways, in the movies, these are the ones that not only feast upon people, they completely devour their skin, muscles, organs, and more within moments. While these are not the brightest of movies in history, you can see why the imagery would stay with a person long after they've seen it. The irony is that while they can be dangerous to humans, much like with piranhas as a whole, you only have to fear them if you end up provoking them, you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, or they find your dead body in a river. They tend to be scavengers more than anything else, and not that I want to test my luck against them, you know. Oh, and if you want more proof of their non-human hating nature, they can also be bought as aquarium pets. Number 17. Portuguese Man of War. Now this is not a type of ship that Portugal uses. It's actually the name of a certain kind of creature that many of you would likely think is a jellyfish, even though it's actually not. A Portuguese Man of War is a hydrozoan, which is a unique class of animal that can function either as a singular entity or as an entire colony of creatures that are working together to give the appearance of a singular body. In even more scientific jargon, it's a siphonophore. And so, it's a colonial organism made up of things known as zooids. This colony of creatures all have a purpose within the Portuguese Man of War, and that includes helping it to move around or even stinging someone or something that might get a bit too close. That's part of the reason why so many people confuse it with a jellyfish, because they have a very nasty sting due to the venom that's inside of them. The Portuguese Man of War, not unlike a jellyfish, uses its sting to paralyze its prey, so that it can then consume it or be used to ward off creatures that try to attack. Furthermore, and once again, just like a jellyfish, if one of its tentacles were to be removed from its main body, it could actually sting you, even though it's not part of the colony anymore. Oh, and you could literally wade into one of these creatures, and then you're going to be in a world of pain. That's a bad thing for the record, as the venom may travel to the lymph nodes and could cause symptoms like an allergic reaction, including swelling of the larynx, airway blockages, cardiac distress, and shortness of breath. Woohoo! Other symptoms can include fever, circulatory shock, and in extreme cases you could die. Now, to be clear, that is not the most likely thing to have happened to you, but it has happened in the past. Australians know best about the Portuguese Man of War, as about 10,000 people are stung by them there every single year. And if the Aussies don't want to go down under with this thing, well then neither should you. Number 16. Barracuda. Anyone who has ever watched Finding Nemo knows exactly why you should be afraid of a shark. We are not very afraid of barracudas. They are creatures with incredible speed and power, and they are known to prey on anything that they think they can get their teeth into, and that also includes fish eggs. This is because they are an opportunistic predator, and their range within the ocean's waters highlights how they are willing to travel to get the food they need. The barracuda is known for its speed, its sharp teeth, and its fearsome reputation in the ocean. They inhabit tropical waters worldwide, and they belong to a genus of fish that are easily recognized by their elongated bodies, powerful jaws, and silvery, reflective scales that help them to blend into their surroundings. There is actually a type of great barracuda that can get up to 6 feet long and weigh over 100 pounds. Despite their fearsome image, though, they are crucial to marine ecosystems and help to maintain balance by controlling populations of other small fish. What separates the barracuda from other things on this list in terms of deadliness is the speed that they have in the water. They literally burst through the water at over 43 kilometers per hour and can overtake just about anything they may be chasing. And then, when they do get them within range of their mouth, they don't just do a simple kill. They tend to bite them in half in order to ensure that they're dead. Arguably just as terrifying is that if they go after something larger than themselves, they'll literally rip it to shreds until it's dead, and then that's when they'll dine upon it. So, yes, it is a freaky creature that you certainly do not want to mess with. Now it's time for today's topic. On the morning of July 4th, 2025, a group of seasoned fishermen operating off the coast of Gansby, South Africa, a region famous for great white shark activity, experienced something they say they'll never forget. While hauling in their deep-sea trawl net roughly 25 miles offshore, the crew of the Sea Lion 4 felt an unusual resistance unlike anything they'd encountered before. At first, they assumed it was a large haul of tuna or possibly a whale caught in the net. But as the massive shape began to surface, panic set in. What emerged was a colossal shark, estimated to be nearly 3 times the size of a full-grown great white, with reddish-toned skin, enormous jaws, and eyes that didn't blink, just stared. Before they could secure it for proper documentation, the creature thrashed violently and ripped through the reinforced steel net with ease, sending the crew scrambling to the far side of the vessel. One fisherman, 42-year-old Dion Venter, stated, "That thing wasn't just big, it was wrong. Like it didn't belong here anymore." Since the incident, the crew has refused to return to open water. Marine experts have begun scouring the area, but no official explanation has been released. Some now wonder, did they just disturb something ancient and still alive? Number 15. The cookie cutter shark. When most of you think about dangerous ocean creatures, you'll likely go straight to sharks. Well, I can hardly blame you for that one. After all, there are plenty of sharks in the ocean, and some of them you might not even know about, like the cookie cutter shark. This is a rather small but incredibly violent shark that has a gruesome way of getting its food. It will use its unique mouth to latch onto a target and then just rip out a chunk of flesh. And if you're wondering, yes, this has happened to humans, and they are known to be incredibly painful bites that are slow to heal. And you honestly never see them coming before they strike. Number 14. The flower urchin. Perhaps you need a break from the venomous creatures of the deep? Well, that's too bad, because here at the Fancy Banana we love to spoil you, and we have the flower urchin. Unlike the stonefish, you have to be careful about this one, simply because of it being a more nonchalant kind of being. It's one that doesn't move around like the other creatures, but it is alive. And to that end, they'll be just fine until you touch it, and then it will inject you with a rather painful venom. Now, believe it or not, there are actually 2 different venoms that a flower urchin can have, and some of them are so severe they can actually put you into a coma or straight up murder you. That has happened with humans multiple times over. And even if you don't die, well, the pain is said to be insufferable. Number 13. Orcas. When you were picturing this list, did you really think that a whale would be on it? Well, when it comes to Orcas, aka the killer whale, you have to make an exception to the rule, because these are absolutely some of the most dangerous creatures in the ocean, and sometimes not even in the ocean. I'll get right to it. We all know the stories from places like SeaWorld, where captured and trained orcas will sometimes lash out at their trainers. It's even been part of the plot of a video game. Now, due to their bulk and speed and power, they can absolutely kill a human and with ease, and they have done so in the past, much to people's dismay. However, it is out in the ocean that their true killer instinct comes into effect. Orcas can be big giant bullies, and I mean it, they have been known to taunt and harass creatures like seals and porpoises, to the extent that they have been documented harassing certain groups for decades. That doesn't even get into what they do to sharks. They're one of the few creatures in the ocean that are willing to take on a great white, and they actually win that battle. In fact, they'll kill them if they have the chance, eat their organs that they find delicious, and then let their bodies drift in the water. Orcas are very cool, but they also have an incredibly dark side, it would seem. Number 12. Moira Eel. Have a look at the Moira Eel with its teeth exposed. It's quite the intimidating image. In fact, most people picture the moray like this, because it has a habit of repeatedly opening and closing its mouth, which many take as a sign of intimidation. When actually, it's just a natural function that they have that allows them to breathe. But then again, sometimes perception turns into reality for some people. What may surprise you is that the moray eel is actually a kind of opportunistic predator, meaning that it will go after anything that it feels that it can eat, even with some surprising results. In fact, one time it was even found eating a venomous fish that I'll talk about later, and it was completely fine. Now, they aren't the kind of thing that humans have to fear, that is, unless they're provoked. And something tells me that is not a thing that you want to do because those teeth look really, really sharp. Number 11. The Shortfin Mako shark. There are quite a few sharks on this list naturally, because they are what's known as the major predators of the ocean. Now, we have the Shortfin Mako shark, which is the first of the more aggressive sharks that have been known to actively attack a human in certain cases. What separates the Mako shark from others is its raw speed. Not unlike another creature I'll talk about, this shark is fast, and it could get up to 74 kilometers per hour in the water, which is more than enough to catch prey that it finds to be enticing. But now let's get to the big question. Do they actually attack humans? And if so, how many have they killed? The answer is yes, and less than a handful. Between the years of 1980 and 2024, there were just 10 attacks on humans by Mako sharks, and 3 of them ended up being fatal. Most would agree that the Makos generally leave people alone, unless those people are trying to fish them out of the depths, and then it becomes fair game for the shark. Number 10. The Needlefish. Now, given some of the names that I've shown you, and ones that you are yet to see in this video, you may be getting the image of the needlefish being one that's full of needles or has needle-like spines. However, that is not the case. Instead, it has an incredibly thin and long mouth which looks like a sharp needle when it's closed, and then when you open that mouth, you're going to see a whole lot of teeth that are incredibly sharp and ready to rip into something. Isn't the ocean just really great? Here's where the twist comes in, though, because these are a type of fish that don't mind jumping out of the water. That would not be bad in theory, except that they can rush out of there at about 60 kilometers per hour, and if their aim with their needle mouths are correct, what do you think it's going to do to a human who's standing on a boat? It's not good, and people have died because of the fish piercing key body parts, which includes piercing a child through his eyeball and then into his brain. A W. Number 9. The Leopard Seal. When you picture a seal, you likely think of adorable animals that you would find in a place like SeaWorld, which of course is fair. However, there are larger and more dangerous versions of them out there in the world, with the biggest and most aggressive of the lot being the leopard seal. These are massive creatures that dominate the Antarctic region in the world. In fact, they're apex predators, and when I say that they're huge, I absolutely mean it, as they can be well over 3.6 meters in length and 500 kilograms in weight. And when they're in the water, they are much faster than you would expect. That's why they are the apex predator of the world, as they can full-on rush after something like a penguin, and they're able to get to them with relative ease. Number 8. The Stingray. This one should be one of the more obvious choices on our list, as the reason you want to avoid them is literally in the name. They can sting you. I mean, we're really enhancing your IQ here at the Fancy Banana today, aren't we? The good news is that they aren't aggressive creatures, and they're more than fine with leaving you alone if you are willing to do the same to them. The stingers they have are meant for self-defense primarily, and that's a good thing because it will hurt when you get stung. You'll typically experience pain, swelling, muscle cramps, and potential infection, depending on how you treat the wound. However, barring some kind of allergic reaction to the venom that it injects, it is likely not going to end up being very fatal. Sadly, though, there are exceptions to the rule, as it was a stingray that caused the death of Steve Irwin while he was filming a documentary called Ocean's Deadliest. The reason his attack was fatal was due to the stingray literally piercing his heart, which caused far more damage than a typical sting would, and it made it impossible to save his life. A death like this should be the ultimate warning, that just because a creature is not likely to kill you doesn't mean that it won't under the right circumstances. Number 7. Cone snails. Going from a shark to a snail may seem like whiplash, but don't underestimate the power of the cone snail. After all, they are venomous, and as we've already pointed out, anything with venom can be a serious threat to a human, amongst other things, of course. Cone snails use a modified radula tooth and a venom gland to attack and paralyze their prey before they engulf it, and that's pretty classy. While there are levels to the venom of a cone snail that it can inflict, the larger species are known to cause serious and long-lasting injuries in people, including potentially killing them, so you should be careful when you find a shell that you see on a beach. Number 6. The box jellyfish. It's a little surprising that it took this long to get to a true jellyfish, but I waited because the box jellyfish is an entity that has taken out humans in the past and has been labeled as one of the most venomous creatures in all of the ocean. Their attacks in places like Australia are the reason that we know about them in the first place, and they've gone to great lengths to try and stop attacks from happening. In fact, they have put out nets to try and keep jellyfish away from the shore so that people don't accidentally swim into them. There's been antivenom and first aid treatments developed in order to treat the stings from them. So, if you are the unfortunate one that gets stung by one of them, if you can get treated correctly, you are more than likely able to be fine in the end. And no, urinating on a jellyfish sting is not recommended as an effective treatment. It's actually a myth, even though being a widely held belief that originated out of pop culture rather than science. Urine is actually not acidic or concentrated enough to deactivate the cells that release the venom from a jellyfish, and in some cases, it can even trigger the stinging cells to release even more venom, especially if it's diluted. Number 5. Sea snakes. Well, there are plenty of snakes that either reside on the water or literally beneath it, and certain kinds of sea snakes are highly venomous. In fact, certain species are known to have venom that's so potent, it's 5 times the level that's even needed to kill a human. What's even more unsettling is that sea snakes are incredibly agile swimmers, able to navigate through the water with an almost hypnotic grace. They can stay underwater for hours at a time, thanks to their ability to absorb oxygen through their skin, making them even harder to detect. Some species are known to be quite curious and may approach divers or swimmers, not out of aggression but sheer curiosity, which can still lead to dangerous encounters. Despite their venomous nature, sea snakes are generally not aggressive and will only bite if they feel threatened or provoked. However, their bites are often painless, meaning you might not even realize you've been bitten until the venom starts to take effect. And so, if you get bit by one, you are unfortunately going to die. The good news is that these kinds of snakes are typically only found around India, so if you're not there, you're probably safe. Probably. Number 4. The pufferfish. It honestly never gets old talking about the pufferfish, and for the most basic of reasons. This is a fish that is entirely innocuous when you first see it. That's because in its base form, it looks like a simple fish. However, when it's threatened in any kind of way, it inflates itself and shows off various spikes on its body that not only have toxin, but arguably the most dangerous toxin in the world, being tetrodotoxin. That's why predators will stay away from this fish, because they tend to enjoy living, you know. What's even more fascinating is that the pufferfish doesn't just rely on its toxin for defense. It's also incredibly strategic. Some species will mimic the movements of other poisonous creatures, adding an extra layer of deception to their survival tactics. And if that wasn't enough, their ability to puff up is not just a defense mechanism but also a way to make themselves harder to swallow for predators. It's like nature gave them a Swiss Army knife of survival tools, all packed into one unassuming little fish. The twists do not stop there, not even by a long shot. You may recall that pufferfish is actually a delicacy in places like Japan, but there's a reason for that. It's illegal for anyone without a proper license to serve it, and that's because if you don't do it just right, you're going to leave some of that poison inside of its body, and that means that it will get into the person who consumes it and they will likely die. Some of the things you will experience if you eat this fish and its venom include hypersalivation, sweating, headaches, weakness, lethargy, incoordination, tremors, paralysis, bluish skin, loss of voice, difficulty swallowing, and seizures. So yes, it's all a bit bad, I would think. It goes to highlight the thing that I've been trying to enforce in your thoughts all throughout this video. You just never know exactly what is and is not the most dangerous thing in the ocean until you learn about everything that's inside of it. Things like the pufferfish pale in comparison to something like a shark, yet if you mess with one, it's going to more likely kill you than the shark will. Number 3. The bull shark. For the next shark on this list, the bull shark is one that is absolutely known for an aggressive nature, and so it's one that you should avoid if at all possible. Plus, it's able to be in both freshwater areas and other areas. In fact, bull sharks have been found swimming up rivers as far as hundreds of miles inland, making them one of the most adaptable shark species in the world. This unique ability to thrive in both saltwater and freshwater environments is due to their specialized kidneys, which help regulate the salt levels in their bodies. Their adaptability also means they can show up in unexpected places, catching people off guard. It's also been spotted in something like rivers, not to mention. It's known to dwell in the more shallow waters near a beach, so it is absolutely a shark that you may encounter while having a relaxing dip in the waters off of a coastline. Now, there won't be any Jaws music to let you know that you're in danger. The sad irony of this is that because of the fear that surrounds sharks like the bull shark and the fact that they do inhabit areas near humans, people have gone and culled their population in huge numbers. They're actually listed as a vulnerable species, so they have to be protected, as ironic as that may sound. To be clear, though, the fear around bull sharks is warranted as they account for a vast majority of shark attacks near shorelines, regardless of whether they end up being fatal or not. Number 2. The blue-ringed octopus. It is true you do not typically hear about an octopus being venomous, but as has been proven repeatedly, there are exceptions to the rule, and the blue-ringed octopus would be that exception in this case. One of the reasons for this is likely due to its size, as it only grows to be about 20 centimeters, so it likely needs all of that venom in order to ward off any predators that may think it's an easy meal. Despite its small size, the blue-ringed octopus is incredibly bold and will display its vibrant blue rings as a warning when it feels threatened. These rings are not just for show, they are a clear signal that this creature is armed and dangerous. What's even more terrifying is that its bite is often painless, meaning you might not even realize you've been envenomated until symptoms start to appear. The venom can cause paralysis, respiratory failure, and even death within minutes if left untreated. Oh, and if you're wondering what kind of venom it is that can make a predator fear it, it actually has a whole roster of toxins in it. However, the one that you'll want to know about is tetrodotoxin, the one that I talked about with the pufferfish. Yes, this blue-ringed octopus actually has it inside of its body as well, and that's all the more reason that you should never, ever get close to it. Number 1. The tiger shark. It may be a bit telling that we keep naming dangerous sharks after other creatures that have been known to take out humans. I mean, has anyone else picked up on that? Surely enough, the tiger shark is second only to the great white when it comes to fatal attacks on humans. However, since this is the last shark that we're going to list, I do want to note that fatal attacks by sharks on humans are exceedingly rare. They do happen, but they rarely, if ever, get above 100 per year. In fact, in the year 2023, there were only 69 shark attacks worldwide. What makes tiger sharks particularly fascinating is their adaptability in hunting and survival. They are known to patrol shallow waters near coastlines, making them more likely to encounter humans than other shark species. Their powerful jaws and serrated teeth allow them to crush through shells and bones with ease, making them highly effective predators. Additionally, tiger sharks are nocturnal hunters, which means they are most active under the cover of darkness, adding an extra layer of unpredictability to their behavior. Now, there is one thing that I do want to note about tiger sharks that does separate them from the pack in a different way. You see, they are the kind of shark that is truly willing to consume anything. I don't just mean that in the sense of it eats different kinds of fish and such, but it will also eat trash. You know, as in human trash, the things that we put into the ocean, even though we're not supposed to, they'll even eat that. Now, no, they cannot digest it properly, but they do go after it, which goes to show you that just like humans, animals can be really strange sometimes. Well, that's all from the depths of the ocean and the various creatures that reside there that you really should be careful of if you're in their range. Which of these creatures do you find the most terrifying? And are there any that you'd actually be curious or brave enough to see up close? Maybe you know of another dangerous ocean creature that deserves a spot on this list. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to check out the other fascinating content popping up on your screen, and I'll catch you next time.